Why not try something smart to chew on? The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Monday, the 15th of January 2024, and this is program number 1811 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Alex George Jr. In addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can get us at our website. It is rcistlucia.com. And as well, we are streaming on Facebook. Just search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International on Facebook. And of course, please be sure to like and share that link as well with your friends and family. Now, today we're sending out some birthday greetings to Mr. Nigel Nicholas. Happy birthday to you, sir. We do hope that you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. Of course, Nigel is a very active content producer and media professional. And so we're wishing him an absolutely fantastic birthday celebration today. And as well, sending out birthday greetings to Miss Mindy Chico. Happy birthday to you, Mindy, and we're wishing you an absolutely fantastic birthday as well. And of course, all those people who are celebrating their birthdays today, you're in some pretty good company in terms of some of the individuals who were in fact born on this day. Gamal Abdel Nasser, former president of Egypt, was born on this day, January the 15th. Joan of Arc, one of the patron saints of France, liberator of France, was born on this day. Ibn Saud, the founder of Saudi Arabia and the House of Saud, he was born on this day. As well, of course, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., civil rights activist in the United States of America, was born on this day as well. A bit of history. In the year 588 BC, Nebuchadnezzar II of Babylon laid siege to Jerusalem under King Zedekiah's reign, and that siege lasted until July the 3rd of the year 586 BC, before Christ. In 1535, King Henry VIII declared himself head of the church in England on this day. 1559, on this day, a little time later, his daughter Elizabeth I was crowned Queen of England in Westminster Abbey. 1759, on this day, saw the British Museum opening its door in Montague House in London. 1902, on this day, a bit more of Saudi history, Abdulaziz ibn Saud led 40 men over the walls of Riyadh and took the city, marking the beginning of the third Saudi state. And in the year 1943, on this day, the Pentagon was completed to house the United States military. And at the time, it was the world's largest office building. I think that distinction is now held by the Surat Diamond Bourse in India right about now, the world's largest office. And in 2001, on this day, Wikipedia, a free wiki or content encyclopedia, was launched by Jimmy Wales and Larry Sanger. And we now move on to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. There's all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasware and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Clark Street in Dufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Well, as we mentioned earlier on in our history for today, of course, on this day, January 15th, 1929, Mr. Michael King Jr., later known as Martin Luther King Jr., was born. And, of course, that happened back in Atlanta, Georgia, in the south of the United States, in what it certainly has become a significantly different country today. But at the time when he was born, of course, it was a very segregated country. It was very divided. It was still reeling from the impact of racism, despite the fact that well over nearly 60 years had passed since the American Civil War, which was fought, of course, between the federal government as well as Confederate forces, the southern states which were looking to break away from the Federation of the United States of America, the Union of the United States of America, if you prefer, and to, in fact, maintain the abhorrent institution of slavery, which had been existing in that region in North America at that point, but for hundreds of years. And the life of many African Americans certainly had not changed substantially or sufficiently by the time that Martin Luther King Jr. was born. And he became a pastor, he became a minister, a Baptist minister, and of course moved on to become one of the most influential people in the world, one can easily say. In fact, went on posthumously to receive, he did in fact receive the Nobel Prize before he in fact died. It happened back in October the 14th in 1964. And of course went on to be very active in the movement for civil rights and justice for people of Atlanta, of people of the South, of people of African descent all over the world. And of course, he is certainly remembered for his contribution and for all that he did and his sacrifice. A martyr to the cause, one could say, in fact, because he eventually was assassinated on April the 4th, 1968, at the age of just 39 in the city of Memphis, Tennessee. And so today we're just going to play, of course, one of his most famous speeches. The speech, of course, which we very much often know as the I Have a Dream speech. Let's take a listen.
I present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when they gather, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
And of course, the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that speech delivered back on August the 28th of 1963, nearly 100 years after the cessation, the end of the American Civil War, which of course was a war fought over slavery and the abolition of slavery. Him making reference there, of course, to that of the Emancipation Proclamation, and making the contrast that yet still 100 years later that the Negro is still not free. And of course he went down in history as being one of the greatest men in history, no doubt, and one of the greatest men who shaped that of the United States of America by virtue of that address at what was called the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. And it was, in fact, certainly a call for civil rights and economic rights. These two were not seen as separate. And, of course, the idea of marching for jobs and freedom was seen as a major clarion call at that point, with over 250,000 persons marching on the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Of course, this happened not so long before the assassination of the president at the time, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who in fact was assassinated on November the 22nd, 1963. This speech given in August the 28th, 1963. And unfortunately, the fate of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as well was that of assassination. He being assassinated about 5 years later in 1968. Of course, his contribution will certainly forever be remembered for certainly what he has done in terms of inspiring so very many movements and so many other individuals to take up the cause. And of course, given that we have just seen certain movements like the Black Lives Matter still being called on so very many years after his own movement as well, it still gives good instruction that it is a continuous struggle for ensuring that there is equality, that there is equity in society. And so we no doubt thank him for his contribution that he has, and of course what he has continued to do in inspiration all around the world. That's our dish of the day. When we come back, we'll be taking in your calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses, Grozile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. And of course, thanks for joining us for this Monday. Of course, it's a holiday over in the United States of America as they mark MLK Day. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we, of course, it's not a holiday here, but many countries around the world have recognized the gentleman by way of other honorings, naming roads and boulevards and avenues, after him and in his honor. Don't think there is such an honor bestowed upon him here in the case of St. Lucia. And maybe that is something we certainly do need to think about, how we certainly remember people, not just from St. Lucia, but who have in fact had an impact on our lives in some form or fashion, whether we know it or not. And of course, there was once, there is in fact a street in Vieux named after Marcus Mosiah Garvey, is Marcus Garvey Street in the town of Vieux. There was also a time when there were a number of Marcus Garvey halls, I believe, as well. There's certainly one still, I think, in existence in the village of Choiseul in St. Lucia. I've also heard of reference to the time when Marcus Garvey, in fact, visited St. Lucia. He, in fact, gave a speech in what was then a hall, I believe, the Closer Union Hall it was called, and that was located on Marshall Road. The building later on, in fact, becoming known as Havana Club, in fact, which was an entertainment space, which went on to, in fact, see the likes of individuals like the Mighty Sparrow, in fact, even performing at that building. Today, I believe it's a little bit more humble in that it's actually the location of a bakery along Marshall Road. But certainly remembering these places is very instructive too, and to remember the individuals who have in fact certainly made significant impacts on our society. In the case of the Nelson Mandela, for instance, who visited St. Lucia back in 1997, he is still should be remembered by virtue of the fact that we have an avenue named after him. What was previously the road heading into VG, the Peninsula Road, I believe it was called at the time, was renamed in his honor as he visited St. Lucia as part of the 25th anniversary of the Caribbean Community Heads of Government meeting, which was held there. But of course, certainly the importance of remembering these individuals in more substantive ways in our curricula in schools is also very, very important. And so that we can understand the larger global diasporic context within we find ourselves largely as people of African descent here in St. Lucia, and the importance of these individuals who've made significant contributions in that regard. It certainly would be fitting that we do so. Put it this way, we have still streets such as Victoria Street, named after a sovereign of the United Kingdom. We still have George V Park, or the Gardens as it's quite often known. That park was named in honor of King George V, who in fact visited St. Lucia, I think in the year 1910, when he was the Prince of Wales at that time. And so the people at the time thought it was nice to name a park after him, I suppose the most largest park in the city of Castries at that point. But we certainly do need to remember and honor our heroes, be they national heroes or global heroes, people who've made contributions far and wide in this regard. So would be very good to look at some of that as to see how we can in fact enshrine more sense of self, sense of identity, sense of pride in this regard. Now, of course, we actually are due to take in our weather report. So I suspect we'll do that first, and then when we come back, we can then take in some calls. So we head across to our weather report at this time.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in island style.
We have tiles and things, sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's of course on the 1.1. It's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talamba. The forecast for Solution Valley for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing from between the northeast and east near 22 miles per hour or 35 kilometers per hour, a few gusts. The weather fair skies occasionally becoming cloudy with a few light to moderate showers. And there is an advisory in here which reads small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to brisk winds and rough seas. The forecast for the Los Antilles, fair skies occasionally becoming cloudy with a few light to moderate showers. And the weather summary. The Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate moderate to brisk easterly winds and locally rough seas across the Eastern Caribbean region during the next few days. A weak shear line drifting southward over the region will produce a few cloudy periods and some scattered light to moderate showers over portions of the Les Antilles during the forecast period. And this was the weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bar.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and things, sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile.
Now, welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 4523046, 4523046. And you can also call or message into our WhatsApp number. That is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. We just want to send out some condolences to the family of the Honorable Emma Hippolyte, the Hippolyte family at this time, unfortunately, after losing one brother now a second. And so, of course, sending condolences to the entire Hippolyte family at what is a very difficult time, the passing of Mr. Raymond Hippolyte. And so our commiserations with his family and loved ones and friends and relatives at his passing. And of course, as well, over the weekend, unfortunately, another homicide, number 3 for the year 2024. And this occurring in the Darefort area, I believe, near Mount Fortune. And unfortunately, another gentleman losing his life in a very, very unfortunate way. And happening, yes, as I mentioned, at Capitol Hill in the Darefort area. I believe the gentleman, it was Mr. Denroy Saltibus, who was also known as Bounty. And that happened on Saturday evening. So condolences to his family and no doubt to the community, which has had to deal with this very unfortunate situation that has befallen them. Also happening on Saturday, but a little further advanced in terms of time and more politically, really, more than anything else, that of the 2024 Taiwanese election. And that occurred with the outcome pretty much being consistent with the polls, which were in fact indicating that Lai Ching-te, Mr. William Lai, who was in fact the vice president of the incumbent DPP, Democratic Progressive Party, they in fact were able to win. He was able to win the presidency of the Republic of China, Taiwan. It certainly was one of the early general elections, one of many, many general elections we are going to be witnessing across the world, and certainly one of the most looked at ones because of what was seen as its potential issues with respect to relations between China and Taiwan, but as well between relations with China and the United States of America because of the issue of Taiwan. And of course, we've been through this many, many times in terms of the relationship between those two countries and how that all came about. But in terms of the result over in that general election, we saw a significant third-party element within this current race, and that was being led by Ko Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party, and of course he effectively was able to pull a significant amount of the vote. I think somewhere around 26% of the vote cast, and that was in comparison to the main opposition party, the Kuomintang, the KMT, who was headed by their presidential candidate, Hu Yui, and his running mate as well, yes, a male. In fact, the other two running mates were in fact both female, but he went with a male running mate. And they were able to pull 33.5% of the popular vote, whereas the winning candidate of the DPP, Mr. William Lai, Vice President Lai, was in fact able to get 40.05% of the popular vote. So one could say in some regards he was not actually able to gain a 50% outcome. In the case of Taiwan, there is no need, as with some countries, you have to have an outright majority, and they go back into second rounds until that can be achieved. In the case of Taiwan, that is not the practice. It is just one election, and the person who comes up with the most, in fact, is victorious. And so, in fact, with just 40% of the votes cast, about 5.586 million people voting for Mr. William Lai, he in fact becomes president and continues for the first time in history. The DPP, in fact, well, first time in history, not just for the DPP, but for any political party in Taiwan, since they've been having elections from the 1990s, the first time that you would actually see 3 consecutive terms of DPP control of the presidency. However, they in fact ended up losing support in the legislative yuan, the legislature. That is a unicameral 113 member body, and they, in that instance, they were not able to actually hold a majority either. In fact, it is very interesting because I think they ended up with, is it about 56, I think, seats to the KMT, the main opposition party, getting about 53 or thereabouts, or a little bit less than that, sorry. But at the end of it all, the independent parties, they in fact I think were about, well, I should say another, it's an independent party. The third party, the TPP, getting 5 seats and 3 going to independents. That means, though, that effectively that third party element within the legislature can be a make or break, a deal breaker. They would certainly have to work with some of these parties. Either side would have to work with that third party. And it certainly is a very interesting dynamic in this regard. In fact, even before this general election, there was an attempt to sort of merge or come together with the KMT and the TPP, a sort of a pan-blue alliance, as it was known, because the KMT's color is generally blue, and the TPP's color a lighter blue, like a teal. And they were planning on eventually putting up one individual. That did not happen. And so, of course, you saw the splitting of votes and splitting of support there. The impact, of course, as to how this may be read is that the individuals within the DPP, this ruling party, which is going to be going back up again and is going to be leading Taiwan for the next 4 years as in its presidency, and it's an executive function, they have tended to be pro-independence, or they have had utterances to promote independence, and that, of course, is the last thing that Beijing and the CCP and Mr. Xi Jinping want to hear. They, of course, are very much about unification of China, in keeping with that 1992 consensus that everybody should really come together, that Taiwan is merely a province of China, and that it should in fact be brought into the fold of China. Of course, on the other side of the strait, the views are very much more varied. Some people, very, very few, want to look towards unification with China. However, a lot of people really just want to maintain things as they are in this somewhat undefined arrangement, which seems to be pretty much working for the vast majority of Taiwanese. And that is because, in fact, their economy places it as one of the most advanced in Asia. It is a developed country. It certainly, no doubt, like all other countries, has its own domestic issues. But for all intents and purposes, it has full control over its domestic affairs as well as its international and diplomatic affairs as well. So that outcome, of course, certainly not what was looked at as one being wanted over in the mainland of China, but definitely it appears the outcome which the majority of persons who went to support the elections actually wanted. In fact, electing the DPP once again in the position or person of Mr. William Lai. Now, in addition to that, as I mentioned, there would be other elections in the coming months. Certainly, the matter of Venezuela. They are expected to go to the polls as well this coming year. And of course, the United States of America is going to be going to the polls in November. And that as well is no doubt being looked at as a very, very critical general election. It will be very interesting because here you have a candidate who was once president, who in fact lost his re-election bid, who now faces charges in the courts and is still seemingly the front runner for one of the main political parties in the United States of America, that of the Republican Party. And of course, we speak of none other than Donald Trump, who seems to be at a point of resurgence, and based on what many are suggesting, may very well come out on top of this general election for the presidency in November. And many, of course, factors at play in the case of the United States of America. Many people have somewhat criticized the system over the time, the issues of using the Electoral College as the means by which individuals are elected. Of course, the president needs to get that magic number of 270 Electoral College votes. And that, of course, seems right now for the individuals who've been looking at the polls, looking at the numbers, very much suggesting that Mr. Donald Trump could very well return as President of the United States of America. But let's go to the phone lines at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon, Mr. George.
Hi, good afternoon, caller. How are you doing?
All right. How is your family and extension?
Very good, thank you very much for asking, and Happy New Year to you and all the best for 2024.
Yeah, you still on holidays, man?
No, we're not on holidays. We're on air.
Oh, but I mean, I ain't nobody calling, so I wondering what's going on there.
Ah, well, you're calling, so that's good.
So there's nothing new in the new year. What's new? Nothing new in the new year.
Well, depends on what you want to look for in terms of new for the new year. We're just starting off, and we're looking at issues from around the world.
What you looking for? I mean, your expectation for your program in the new year?
Well, we hope to continue the program into the new year and to...
In the same old?
Well, if you want to call it the same old, maybe so.
I don't know. I'm just asking a question.
Well, if you want to have any recommendations as to what you would like to see, we always will welcome and entertain that.
Well. No. A bright fella like you calling for recommendations. Anyway, Mr. George, you there me, Mr. George?
Yes, I'm listening to you, caller. There's a little bit of an echo, but we're trying to hear you.
We keep talking about you hearing it still?
Yes, we're hearing you. Go ahead.
We keep hearing about democracy. You know, I mean, you think you can defend democracy for me? When does the democracy cease to be a democracy?
When does a democracy cease to be a democracy? That's an interesting one. I suppose where you have a breakdown or corruption of the system and in fact, people are no longer able to truly be electing their representatives. We've seen in many instances the perversion of the system, especially through money, and so issues of campaign finance is a major one that can impact democratic systems. And sometimes it's just almost a full breakdown through maybe violent coercion as well. That's a major threat.
So all right, it's interesting. You're going down that road, money, violence, and so on and so forth. Could to dim, first you mentioned election, which seems to be the central focus of what makes a democracy. People are elected, huh?
Well,
but then when you
come
have
together to make
the
decisions,
underlying conditions like you alluded to, like violence, the threat of violence, and taking away people's ability to vote, express themselves, even who they want elected, restricting that, and money and so on and so forth. It goes on and on. So and you still have elections.
Yeah.
People are still elected, and they claim, well, we had elections.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's what seems to be existing in democracies all over the place, quote unquote. Because even as far as Bangladesh, we hear calls of corruption and graft and all sort of things. We hear that in Look, is America still a democracy, a bastion of democracy?
Well, we were just talking about the United States of America, and one of the issues that they have is the system itself, and in particular, the process that they call redistricting, which here we call changes to the constituency boundaries. They call it redistricting over there. And you've found very many instances in the past the outcome of the election is almost skewed because of the way they have aligned their constituencies. And that has certainly tended to have an impact benefiting the Republican Party, from what we've been told. So certainly even that too, how those institutions work, how independent are they, quote unquote, all of those things impact the quality of the democracy that we have.
Because even our institutions, let's face it, and of course we have different tiers in our institutions, local, regional, international. Huh?
Yes.
So, and when you get to the highest court, which is the, what do you call it? International ICJ.
The ICJ, the International Criminal Court? Court of Justice, sorry? Yes.
Yes. And America and Israel and them could just spit in their face and say, well, you have no jurisdiction over me. You can't tell me what to do. I mean, you know, that is the top, that is the head,
Yeah.
Well, that's the head. What is, sometimes I want, the situation now is really, really volatile,
Well, you're so correct, caller. And you look at the United Nations, for instance, which is supposed to be this entity, that is representing the interests of all. But then,
United Nations has no clout.
But even so, but then you have the Security Council.
Yeah.
And then within that 5 are permanent members, and those 5 each have the ability to shut down any decision that the other 14 can decide upon because they have a veto. So, that I think is contrary to the democratic principles. So there's certain aspects of which we have built in, which are certainly not fair. Very much so. But I guess, it comes back to the might is right philosophy there, especially in terms of the Security Council, because the powers that have these vetoes are all nuclear powers. They all have nuclear weapons.
If that's what the final say will come down to, might is right, then what does that make democracy? How does that place democracy? It has nothing to do with majority and the will of the people. It doesn't have to do with that.
But it's interesting, caller, because it's interesting that you're raising it in this context, because our system around the world is built up on national governments and the sovereignty of national governments. So whether 8 billion people think the United States of America is wrong, right? Once there's a majority of people in the United States of America deciding that is how they want certain things, they will do whatever they want, right? And likewise, this is how everything is designed.
But that's what
it
is.
It is self-determination at the internal level on your internal matters. So, yes, we have tried to develop systems at the international level, but yes, at the end of it all, the strength of your armies, the strength of your defense, I think that really seems to trump it all at the end of the day.
I mean, you watch out the Middle East there, where a lot of that's really, a lot of these things going on there now. And you see all these countries that America and Europe claim to, the Arab Islamic countries mainly, that want to institute democracy, to be in the same vein as Israel, is more chaos, They have become, the war, Libya is chaotic.
Right.
Iraq, chaotic. Afghanistan, chaotic.
Yemen, the same.
Yemen, then you have Egypt is a dictatorship. You have this, what's his other name? Sisi, whatever, Jordan, and they have emasculated all these countries that they have no say, they don't even have, they almost, they're subservient to the forces of America and Europe and so on. They have to remain subservient to them for money, one reason, and for most of them, military-wise and so on and so forth. And they're too even weak, all these Arab nations. They're too even, they're not strong enough. You have the United Arab League.
Right.
You have all these Arab countries, all these Muslim, Islamic countries. And you have to go to find somebody, to find a country that's willing to stand up to what, all of us watching and seeing. A crime against humanity played out day after day after day. And you could tell me what you want. You could use what kind of words you want. That cannot be justified. You understand? I mean, what did these little children do to deserve that? And at the end of the day, which God you'll go and pray to and say, well, we had to get to Hamas. Sorry, Lord, we had to kill all these children. You know what I mean? And then it takes South Africa. South Africa don't even have nothing for itself. It's still fighting its own wars to get equity for its black people down there. Has to go to the Court of Justice and make a case on behalf of the world. The whole world, I would say, because humanity watching, you cannot, you cannot help see that what is going on is not right. It's not right. It's not right. Regardless of what your politics, what your religion, whatever it is, it cannot be right. If you have a thread of humanity in you, you would see that this thing cannot be right. And then you rely on South Africa to make a case, and America and Europe.
It's sometimes caller, the image that comes to mind, is that you have two boys, right? And one boy is much bigger than the other boy in any case. and then you have a much bigger, maybe an uncle or something, and the one boy is fighting with the other boy, the smaller boy, completely taking advantage of him. And the uncle is the one who's saying, nobody else come and touch them, because I'm allowing the situation to happen. I'm just allowing that this one boy to beat up the other boy, and nobody's going to do anything because the uncle is overseeing the entire matter at play, right? And everybody else feels almost powerless that they're not going to touch the other or step in, because
want to talk democracy, and all these sort of things. And it seems that number of people who really, I mean, we just helpless because they they can't stop. I don't think they could stop Trump. Trump with so much things going against him, still increasing his lead in the polls when Biden is at the best it's going to get for him, because it's not going to get any better for Biden, because as that war is prolonged, the little gains he made with regards to inflation and so on, going to be lost by the time the polls are called. Jobs created, and we're going to have. You wonder what is he going to boast? What is he going to? And then his position there now. Young people. Imagine that you could say what you want about Trump. You could call Trump names, foolish, stupid, whatever. But I don't think.
Well,
nobody will call Trump Genocide Donald. That is how they dubbed this gentleman, Genocide Joe.
Yeah. He's very, very crafty of that, right? I mean, look at what he did with Hillary Clinton.
Very higher institutions of learning.
Yeah.
And the churches there behind what's going on. That is why Bob Marley said years ago, they're building church and university, sucking the blood of the sufferer. That's what.
Well, again,
it
comes to about turning that blind eye. You're not seeing anything, but you're just supporting this individual, regardless of all that that they're doing. That is wrong, and that's what we have a lot of right now. And Trump has also been able to be so divisive.
So moral suasion could change that kind of thinking. What changes that kind of thinking? That's what I'm interested in.
I think, well, I would say enlightenment, but I mean, that might sound too...
Enlightenment?
No, because we see...
Enlightenment is subjective, my brother.
Yeah, no, you're right. But what Trump has managed to do is that he has created very clear enemies. For instance, immigration. He has managed to convince very, very many working class Americans that the problem that they have is immigrants, right? The problem is not the system that is spending billions and billions and billions of dollars on everything else but supporting what they need. The problem is immigrants, people coming in and taking advantage of America, so to speak. And you'd be very surprised, Cole. I mean, during the Christmas, I was able to interact with some St. Lucians on vacation who live in the United States of America. And I actually met some Trump supporters.
No, but
people who told me St. Lucians living in the United States of America who are complaining about immigration.
Right now, let me tell you, most of the people who went to get their visas and they're legit, they're more vocal against, these people coming through the back door there. They would like Trump there. So you see, when you have these other people, they don't like Trump, his personality. He's obnoxious, he's what he is. They don't like him. But the whole idea is that letting people in, that kind of way there, it doesn't go in sync with, it's not in sync with them. And there's also a set of body of people that are saying, why should the courts try and stop the man from renting? That's undemocratic. Biden and them will argue, well, the courts are a democratic institution and the medium for exercising democracy. But then the other, the people contrary to that will tell you that the courts are denying the gentleman the right to be voted.
He's playing the victim.
Or against.
He is playing the victim. He has that means by which
there you go.
switches.
There you go. So there, so you have to question who is democratic. Biden don't seem Biden not coming across more democratic anyway. That Biden, and plus the age factor. Trump look a much more vibrant 70-something than him.
Right.
And all that, these are factors. So get ready for Trump, the return of Donald Trump, and with that, many other things might change. The limit on terms, 2 terms. Trump might say, well,
he wants to become president for life.
Well, and once he could win elections, he'll be just like our fellas down here in the Caribbean. Hans Gonzalez and them. Once he could win election, let him stay.
Right.
So yeah. So, my brother, thanks
very much, caller. All the best then. Take care. Have a good one. And unfortunately, we are already out of time here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. But of course, we will be back again tomorrow, God willing, for another program here. We do hope that we can continue the conversation and you can join in as well. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. saying goodbye.